Welcome to Strong by Nature, your portable campfire sessions for living strong, balanced, and connected the Grizzly way. My name is Stephen Bradley. I am a builder by trade. I then became a personal trainer, entrepreneur. We ran our own coffee shop for a while. I was even a quality control specialist for a while there as well. I am also a average musician, a average martial artist, and a average gardener slash mental health advocate. So yeah, I wear a lot of hats. I do a lot of things. It's hard to sort of put too much of a label on myself. I've never felt like I kind of fit in with the way society kind of pushes you to go. So I've never really been too content just carrying down one career path and just doing one thing. I'd much rather do a whole lot of things and live that way. A little bit of everything. Balance, finding balance in all areas of my life. You will hear a little bit of background noise because I'm sat down in my garden and people are always driving around and tooting their horns and listening to salsa music really loud because we live in Ecuador now. So that's a little bit more about me. Why am I starting this podcast? Because I feel like the world has just become so noisy and so muddy and messy with the whole hustle culture and mindfulness and all this other bullshit that we're latching onto and trying to fucking oversell, that we just need to sort of take a step back and have a little bit more of a discussion about some of these things like you would around a campfire. The whole vibe of this podcast is I want it to have that campfire vibe where you're sitting down, it's quiet, it's peaceful, you're hearing nature and the crackling of the fire, and you've probably got a little bit of a buzz on because for some reason we do that when we sit down next to fires. But that gives you a little bit more confidence to talk about some of these things, to bring up some of these subjects you wouldn't normally bring up, and you usually leave going away feeling a little bit more connected to something, a little bit more aware of something you weren't aware of, or maybe you've got that something off your chest that you needed to get off, so you just leave feeling a little bit better, a little bit more brand new. So this isn't polished, it's not corporate, it's raw, it's grounded, it's honest, it's very much who I am, a little bit rough. So why strong by nature? Look, those are two words that kind of resonate with me a lot. Through my journey with mental health, I really latched on to exercise and valued becoming a lot stronger, which has changed a lot over the years. But then nature as well. Being from New Zealand, nature is such a big part of the culture and the lifestyle there. Most people, except probably people that just live in Auckland, are very much out in nature, whether it's surfing or fishing or hunting or camping or hiking. There's just so much nature about the lifestyle and culture in New Zealand. So being a Kiwi, being from New Zealand, that's just another little thing we're just adding on there into the name. Okay, so as of right now, I am living in Manta, Ecuador, which is a coastal city here. We lived in Australia for a while. My wife and I met in New Zealand. We then moved to Australia, lived there for a long time, had a coffee shop. I started a personal training business called Grizzly Functional Training, which this has all become a part of. Grizzly has now just molded into just Grizzly, and I'm talking about a whole lot more than just exercise and nutrition now, because I've learned that there's so much more important things to your life than just being fit and eating well. A lot of what we do now is about our connection with things, our connection with people, our connections with nature, our connections with each other, our connections even with our stuff. There's so much that's kind of changed. There's so much that's like come into our life that's evolved our way of thinking. We've played around with the ideas of minimalism for a while. We got really into tiny houses and wanted to do something down that route. I doubt that we'd ever go full tiny house. We're not going to go full minimalism, but just taking concepts from those things to apply to your life. And like with the whole minimalism, learning to value your stuff. you then have that connection with your stuff, which is why I said that, in case you're thinking it was kind of weird. But yeah, like our whole sort of journey where we're at the moment. I mean, I'm a builder by trade, so woodwork and carpentry is something I've always had a lot of fun doing, which is something I'm reconnecting with now. We've started a garden as part of like how we wanted to do some of our early education for our daughter, was teaching her the importance of growing your own food and just seeing that whole process. So, you know, that's become a big part of who we are. But yeah, the some of like the kind of pillars of life at the moment for us is obviously family time, how you spend your time, exercise, so how we're looking after our bodies. My wife's very much into yoga, I'm very much into jiu-jitsu, and so mobility has become a big core focus for both of us with the ways that we train now, rather than just out and out being strong, being big, being fucking ripped and looking real sexy. The woodworking's a part of it, the gardening's a part of it. I'm going around in circles because I'm not seeing what I'm actually putting down as points here. But yeah, I really want this podcast to be a reflection of that, learning how to find balance. Like, I'm not an expert in any of these things. I don't consider myself an expert in anything, but I have become quite good with balance, and I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with in their life. A lot of people can't do something without zeroing in 100% on that and forgetting all of the other things. And so yeah, balance is very much a big part of who I am. And it's funny, like, I've never really been a big one on star signs and all of that, but I'm a Libra. I was diagnosed with a form of borderline bipolar when I was younger as well, so that's obviously, there's a lot of balance in there. And then now I feel like I've been called to start this discussion, this movement, all centered around balance. So yeah, it's funny, like, nature's got a weird sense of humour, which is ironic as well because I do also. So yeah, a bit more about my journey. So like I was saying, strength and all of that was a big focus for both of us for a while. I first got real latched on to exercise when I was first diagnosed with mental illness, because as part of the whole, I'll just call it bipolar. It's a form of bipolar, but the name's confusing, so we'll just call it bipolar to make it nice and simple, nice and straightforward. So when I was diagnosed with bipolar, one of the things I had to start doing was obviously find balance and more routine in my life, and exercise was a really good way. Exercise is a really good way to help with depression. It releases endorphins, so you feel good afterwards, and so that became a big part of who I was. I was running all the time, and then I got into swimming, and then I got into cycling, and I was dabbling with triathlon, and then I met Belen, who's now my wife, but when we were dating early on, she worked in a gym, so I was like, okay, I can go along to the gym, and so I wasn't running as much, but I started lifting weights and started feeling strong. And then when we moved to Australia, we got into CrossFit, and then CrossFit bled into calisthenics, and then calisthenics I got interested in jiu-jitsu. So everything's kind of changed and evolved, but exercise has never been about one particular exercise for me, and it's very much in the way that I train now. Like, I train to move, I train because it feels good, I change things up because I get bored, and I'm still seeing improvement in a lot of things anyway, and this is working for me, so I'll just keep doing it that way. Nutrition is obviously a big sort of part of who we are without being fuckwits about it. Like, I love to apply more of a 80-20 rule without even being as anal as actually calculating in my head, have I eaten 80% good and 20% bad? I don't go that extreme. Like, we try and be pretty clean during the week, and we relax a little bit more on the weekends. We try and cook as much of our own food as possible, but we're obviously flexible with going to other people's houses and going out for dinner sometimes, because sometimes you can't be fucked cooking, so you just do that. But I find if the majority of what you're eating you are cooking yourself, you're already on the right track to feeling and looking a whole lot better anyway. Because when you're cooking a lot of stuff from scratch, if you can do it with whole foods, like, yeah, okay, it can be a bit more tedious, but making the pasta sauce yourself rather than just buying a jar of it, reading the back of a fucking nacho seasoning packet and seeing what the main ingredients are and being like, oh, I'll just use that to season my Mexican flavored foods. You're just trying to get as close back to the source as possible is a lot of how we treat food now. We keep a focus on protein because that's obviously important. Protein's going to keep you feeling fuller for longer. It's going to help your muscles and everything grow bigger and stronger. So protein is definitely a very important part of the diet. So yeah, we try and focus on protein with every meal and eating as many whole foods as possible, and then just being flexible with it on the weekend. We still want to have some pizza or some beers or some burgers or an ice cream and shit like that. And yeah, we're trying to teach our daughter that very same thing. We try not to have too many treats and naughties in the house, but we're obviously flexible with the fact that knowing other people are still going to give her those things. She still has access to those things, and we still eat those things, so we can't completely deny it. But if we're giving that to her as well, knowing full well that both of her grandmothers and all her uncles and aunties more often than not are going to give her little bits of like cookie and cake and ice cream and shit like that, then fuck it, let's not give her that as well. Let's make sure, without being assholes about it, we're helping her stick to that 80-20 rule as well. Mental health is a big part of sort of who I am and what I want to talk about with this as well, because it's shaped who I am, and I think it's something that not enough people are really talking about. Sometimes it's cool to bring it up, sometimes it's a cool buzzword in that on social media, but I feel like there's real discussions we need to be having more with it. And I've noticed in the past, like sometimes you'll bring it up and people get uncomfortable, but it's as well, I want this to be more that campfire vibe. No one gets uncomfortable with discussions at a campfire, just have another beer. And yeah, lifestyle is the other important thing I've got written down here on my notes. So yeah, lifestyle, obviously doing a lot more woodworking and gardening now that we're kind of set up a bit more to be able to do that. I also grew up in a family where, my grandfather was a builder, half of my dad's cousins and uncles and that were all builders as well. And, when my grandfather passed away, my dad inherited all of his old machineries and tools. So me and my brother very much grew up around a dad that was just constantly just making random things. And so we'd get involved and we'd play with them. Like, carpentry tools were as much a toy for us as, say, a fucking Action Man was. We just grew up around that. So naturally I was going to get into that when I left school, and did that for a long time, eventually became a personal trainer. But yeah, woodworking for me now is, like, when we took over the coffee shop, I built all the furniture from old pallets and that we got donated and old scraps of wood, and I just fell in love with this idea of recycling, using old stuff and creating something new. Because as well, you can, like the lazy side of me, like you can cruise a little bit more with it. You don't have to keep shit as tidy when the wood's already bent anyway. Like, it doesn't matter if your cuts aren't perfect. It doesn't matter if shit doesn't line up perfectly because the wood's fucked anyway. So I liked the idea of playing around with that, and even playing around with the idea of trying to make some of these shapes that you got from bent weird bits of wood working together, and it almost makes some of that furniture we were making just look better and feel more comfortable anyway. So yeah, when we started our gardening, I got back into it. I built a little deck at the house we were living at for a while, and I built the planter boxes, and I built some chairs. And yesterday we want to get my daughter into, she's loving books at the moment. It's her 3rd birthday tomorrow, so we thought, let's build her a little bookshelf and we'll tell people to grab her more books and stuff like that. So I built that yesterday, and that was fun. That whole process was really mentally rewarding as well, because I just had a couple of random pieces of wood. I had a rough idea of what I was going to build, but I didn't calculate perfectly. I just started putting it together as I went, and I got to a point where I was like, oh shit, I miscalculated there. I'm going to have to make it a little bit smaller. I'm going to have to do this, I'm going to have to do that. But that whole process is just so rewarding. Building something with your hands and building on the fly, and the problem solving element is just, it's cool. So yeah, that's a big part of my lifestyle. The gardening is a big part of the lifestyle now. We started that, as I was saying, just to teach my daughter something new, but that's very much a part of my morning routine. You know, I come down, I make the coffee, I water the plants, I pick out all the weeds. There's some of that background noise I was talking about, motorbike. When we first started the garden, we just harvested seeds from random shop bought stuff. We got some watermelon seeds, some tomato seeds, some green pepper or capsicum, wherever you are in the world. We got donated some random seedlings. We bought some seedlings. He bought some seeds, and so yeah, shit's been growing. The basil that we've bought has just gone hard. Like, we're always harvesting, always taking clippings from that. But we picked our first tomato the other day from one of the seeds that we harvested ourselves. So that was so much more rewarding than some of the other stuff that we've been growing. But to be fair, it's all rewarding. It's all been a fucking cool journey. And yeah, music is another part of who I am. I'm a self-taught musician. I played in bands for a while. I'm not a very good musician, but I'm a self-taught musician, and I have fun doing it. I have fun sitting down, singing and playing guitar, and yeah, that's a big part of my lifestyle and who I am as well. And spending time with my family is a big part of who we are. Just slow living, being able to just cruise, deciding, okay, my daughter finished daycare at 12. Let's just go to the beach. Like, fuck doing any work. Let's just hang out with her. We've really learnt that we're not chasing becoming millionaires. Like, we're not trying to get a yacht. We're not chasing that particular lifestyle. The lifestyle that we're chasing isn't a super expensive one, so we don't have to work that hard for it. It's where, like, hustle culture's really fallen kind of flat on us. Like, obviously, like, work hard, you get what you're going to work for, but at the same time, like, you've got to live as well. Living is so much more important than just building up some keeping up with the Joneses lifestyle that you're always going to be comparing to somebody else, and you're always going to want to try and go one step further because they are trying to go one step further. So once you eliminate that from your thinking and just chase the lifestyle that you want, you realize it's so much more accessible and you don't have to work as hard for, and everything just slows down. And that has been massive for us, just being able to slow down, being able to take afternoons off, being able to, like, we got my daughter in daycare just in the mornings now, 8 until 12, and so in the afternoons one of us has to be with her, keeping an eye on her. You can still do bits and pieces of work, but it's not the same. But that's the best thing ever. Like, I feel like I've got the best of both worlds right now. I've got the balance. I feel like I'm being a stay-at-home dad, but I'm also an entrepreneur. I'm also, training people in the morning. I'm making my videos. I'm making furniture. I'm selling. I'm doing stuff with the garden. I'm hoping I can just start selling a couple of these little seedlings, because fucking hell, some of these plants are going so hard. They grow way quicker than I thought they would, and I've got no space. I've got to sell the fucking things. But yeah, lifestyle. All right, what else have I got on my prompts to riff on? Turning point when you realize strength wasn't just about the gym. Yeah, so it's so true. Like, mental strength is a completely different thing than just being strong. And obviously, being strong, you have to have a certain amount of mental strength to will yourself to going into the gym and to do all of those things anyway. But being able to say no takes mental strength. Being able to say no to one more beer, being able to say no to an occasion that you don't think you can afford to do, being able to say no in situations like, I'll use jiu-jitsu as a perfect example. So all walks of life are training in a jiu-jitsu gym, big people, small people, women, old people, whatever. Once you start to get the hang of it and you know what's going on, being able to hold back and say no to just smashing somebody out of pure ego, like it takes a bit of strength, because early on in the journey, that's you're just getting smashed. But training with women and teenagers and older people and just people smaller than you, people less experienced than you, being able to hold back takes more strength than it does to, battling against some big strong person. So being able to say no is a massive, massive part of mental strength, and building that mental strength is so much more important than building up your physical strength. I think my experience with bipolar and everything has taught me a lot with that when I was obviously first diagnosed, I was on medication for a while, but I knew that I didn't need to be on medication. Like I'd gone so far in my life without medication, and then obviously things got more out of hand to the point where I needed the medication for a while. But my goal, once I got clear-headed again, was to be able to live functionally without needing to require medication. And that took a long time. It took a lot of sessions with a psychologist. It took a lot of trialing on and off and blah, blah, blah. It took a lot of getting a lot of things right. But it took a lot of mental strength to get those things right. I needed to learn my early triggers. I needed to learn how close I could get to those triggers before I spiraled one way or the other. I had to learn self-control in so many situations because so much of my life was affecting my balance with my moods during that time. It was how I felt in my body. So what I was eating and how I exercised played a big part in how I felt and how that would trigger my highs and my lows. But even something I don't think a lot of people realize, but like finances was a big thing. When I was feeling good and I was on top of the world and I just wanted to go out and do shit, I was shouting everybody, I was paying for lunch, I was doing this, I was buying new things, and then my account would dry out and I'd be like, oh shit, I got no money. And so you get that little bit of a lull, and that would spiral into a full-blown depression. So understanding the importance of my finances and my spending habits played a massive part in me getting off the medication, which again was such a huge goal. I haven't been medicated for over 10 years now, which is incredible. Like I still feel the highs and lows. I still experience everything. The neighbors still making lots of noise, but I'm in tune with it now. Like it's become part of who I am. It's all part of the balance, which is again the whole point of this podcast: learning balance, learning to reconnect with everything. And like what balance looks like for me is going to look different for you. I'm not here saying this is the way to do each one of these things. I'm here to say this is why I needed this particular element in my life. This is how I implemented it. These are some of the ways that did and didn't work, so that you can take from that what's going to work for you. Balance for me is not going to look like balance for you. Like, we're different people, we got different ambitions. There's no one size fits all for this kind of shit. So this is really me sitting down saying, hey, look, I've experienced heaps of shit. This is how I am now able to live the lifestyle I am now, and this is my perspective. This is the stuff I've learnt. This is the stuff I'm still learning, because that's the other thing with all of this is I'm going to be talking about things that I've only just discovered myself, that I've only just started implementing, and so that's where I want to be able to engage with you. I want to hear your feedback. I'm going to put stuff out there. Like one example is breath work. I'm going to be talking about breath work in a couple of episodes time, but that's still something I've only just really started looking into properly in the last couple of weeks. So I've always been aware of it in certain ways and implemented it in certain ways, but I've never really gone deeply down the rabbit hole. So that episode is going to be a fun one, because that's really going to be a chance for those breathwork gurus out there that stumble across this to, give me some more pointers and help me out more with that, so that I can carry it on. This is about starting a movement more than it is about just creating content. This is about bringing in that connection and that balanced culture and building a small community where we can sit down and we can have these discussions like you would around a campfire. Being a dad as well has completely changed my perspective on a lot of things, with what's important in life as well. Like it's one thing to be in a relationship with somebody and you then start thinking, okay, like how does this affect our lives rather than just my lives. Being single is sweet, you just do whatever the fuck you want, and if you get it wrong, it's only you that has to worry about it. Being in a relationship is different, because two people feel those mistakes. Two people feel all of the awesome moments, but yeah, two people feel those mistakes as well. But then you start adding kids into the mix and everything's completely different. Like, you're not taught how to be a parent. You've just got these two people that are going off their unique experiences of childhood and how they were raised, and try to implement those two things just to keep this small person alive. It's crazy when I see selfish parents out there. I just think, like, how can you be like that? Like, how is this little person not your everything right now? How is this little person not the center focus on everything that you're doing, especially when they're so small? Like, my daughter's 3 tomorrow. She's still so vulnerable. She's fucking incredible, the shit she can do already, but she's still so vulnerable. She's just a little girl. So that's changed my perspective so much. Being the father of a daughter has changed my perspective so much. Like, you just see how the world is, and you just see shit out there with the toxic masculinity and all this stuff that's going on. And, like, I mean, every little child is vulnerable, but, like, just a little girl, it's just, I don't know, maybe it's just general dad vibes, but she's just the most vulnerable, precious little thing out there. Alright, so back on track. Back to my little notes. Purpose, what you hope listeners will take away. What do I hope you take away? I hope you take away something of value. I mean, this is the first episode. It's very much rambling, so I hope you can take something of value. I hope that you hear more than just my fucking neighbour with his fucking saw or whatever he's doing. It is nice and peaceful out here, bar that noise. Like, I'm looking at all my veggies and shit right now, and it is quite a beautiful, pretty little spot to sit down and do this. But yeah, what do I hope you take away? I just hope you take away something useful, something you can start implementing to your life today. But this is about 3 main things for me. It's about being strong in your body, whatever that may look like. Like, remember I said, like, strength is not just about physical strength. Like, that's important. We should all be trying to maintain some level of strength, even if that's just, like, for me right now, it's more about preservation than anything. Like, I'm 38 in a couple of months. I know that's not old by any means, but also, like, it's only another 20 years away from 60, and you see so many people in their 60s that are fucked, and they shouldn't be like that. It's just they stopped moving. So you stop moving, you start losing muscles, all these things become difficult. Hopping up and down out of a chair, that's basically just doing a squat. So you can't hop up and down out of a chair anymore. You see them struggling, all of these ones, as they're hopping out of a chair. It's because they've got no muscles left in their legs. So even just doing some basic bodyweight squats a couple of times a week is going to save you from that. So yeah, strength in your body and strength in your mind. We're going to learn more about those things, just being strong in all aspects of our life. We also want to be focusing on and talking about balanced in mind, balanced in everywhere, balanced with, like, your work lifestyle. That's the whole beautiful thing for me about living this kind of, like, digital nomad sort of lifestyle, is you've got so much more freedom to sort of come and go. And yeah, the other thing is just being more connected in spirit. Like, spirituality is something that I've been on this slow sort of journey of rediscovering the last few years, and spirituality shouldn't be confused with religiousness, because those are two very different things. I was raised in a very religious family, a Christian family. Still, a lot of my wider family are still practicing, very religious, and like that's cool, but, like, that's not for me anymore. And sorry if that offends anybody, like, that's just my opinion. Like, for me personally, like, I'm not a huge fan of the idea of organized religion, but spirituality is a completely different thing, and that presents itself in so many different ways, whether it's your connection with the energy and nature, like it is for me. Like, energy is such a big important thing for me, and yeah, that connection with nature. But whether that looks like a god or whether it doesn't really matter when it comes to spirituality. Spirituality is just that connection with who you really are deep down, connection with your soul. So that's something I want to be talking about more as well. And yeah, I really want to be able to leave every episode with something that you can start to apply right away. So let's, just off the top of my head, let's look at, say, something like meditation. Again, like I'm not an expert by any means. Like I really struggle with consistency on this. I've been hot and cold with it over the years. I'm in a good phase with it at the moment, but it's still very much a struggle. And the one thing I find, if I were to explain it to somebody trying it for the first time, the simplest and easiest way to get into it is just to get comfortable, close your eyes, and focus on your breath, even if that's only for 20-30 seconds. Close your eyes, breathe in for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds, count of 4, however you want to do it, whether it's your heartbeat, whether it's actual seconds, but breathe in for 4, breathe out for 4, and just be aware of that breath, be aware of that feeling as you breathe in, and just focus on that breath. Just focus on counting to 4, counting to 4, counting to 4, counting to 4, breathing in, breathing out. Just do that several times, and that just kind of regrounds your mind again. The thing I struggle is, after a while, my brain starts to wander, and I start thinking about this, and I start thinking about that, and that's where people are like, yeah, accept the thought, push it to the side, blah blah blah, say that you feel the thought, blah blah blah, all those things. So that's cool, but that's still very much a work in progress for me. So there'll be an episode coming up where we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the things that are working for me, the things that I've struggled with. Yeah, it's far from perfect advice. It's definitely like, take what you can use, leave the rest, pass on what you think might be relevant to somebody else, share this with somebody else. It's very much that sort of vibe, campfire vibe. Not resonating with this particular episode? Have another beer. I really, really, really want to stay away from the whole fucking wellness trends and hacks and preachy and top 3 tips to blah blah blah. Like this is a discussion about refinding balance, reconnecting with what matters, with taking your shoes off and just standing on the grass, standing on the sand, and taking a few deep breaths and just reconnecting with nature, reconnecting with the spirit of the universe, just reconnecting with who you are. So some of you will have found this through my other channels. So how does this tie back into Grizzly? So Grizzly Functional Training, I have rebranded to just being Grizzly, because I'm about so much more than just exercise. And so this is really just that more raw and unfiltered and kind of just off the cuff, spur of the moment kind of discussion about a lot of the things that make Grizzly, that make my lifestyle what it is. Like my whole focus with Grizzly and what makes it Grizzly is reconnecting to what matters, to feeling strong and mobile in our body, and to being able to move well, to keep up with the lifestyle that we want, to keep up with our kids, to not just feel like an old sore piece of shit. I feel like too many people are kind of torn between that whole, I don't want to go to the gym 3 hours a day to chase that Instagram physique, but I don't want to feel like a slow, tired old piece of shit. But like, what's the middle ground? And that's kind of what I'm here to say. Like, just move your body, focus on mobility, being able to get in those positions, being able to sit down in a deep squat and talk with your kid down on their level, and being able to do a fucking proper push-up so that when the tennis ball rolls under the car, you can fucking lie down in that position, grab it and push yourself back up. It's just about, I don't want to use the word functional so much anymore because it gets thrown around so much, but like that's 100% what it is. Like, we need strength that's relevant to our life, that we can actually use on a day-to-day. So yeah, that side of Grizzly is still very much very much there, but there's this whole other side of who I am now where, okay, like nutrition is important as well, that's part of who you are, but there's this, I'm way more aware and in touch with my mental health journey and the spiritual side of all of that, and then there's nature, and then there's all these other things that make me who I am, that I love doing, that kind of need to be explored and put out there as well, to sort of show people that, you know, there's so much more to who we are than how many times we can fucking squat X amount of reps, or, you know, how good we look in this, or what our car is. Like there's this other shit that we're into, you know. Like I said before, like I like to play guitar a lot, and I feel good when I'm doing that, and I'm in the moment, and I'm just enjoying, I'm just flowing with the music. And same when I'm in the garden, or when I'm doing my carpentry work, you know, like I'm just in that moment. I'm just there doing that thing. Same with jiu-jitsu on the mats, you know. It's problem solving. It's more than just trying to grapple some other man and get a submission. It's about slowing down my breathing and learning how to use my body as a lever, and learning how to time their movements. And I just think we all need to take a step back and just slow down and remember to do the shit that we love doing. This isn't a Start Jiu-Jitsu podcast. This is, obviously I'm going to talk about that a lot because that's something I'm passionate about. But, you know, I used to be passionate about skateboarding. So like, if you're still passionate about that and still doing that, then cool. Make that your thing. Make that more of a focus in your life. Make that your, I don't want to say escape, because I don't want to apply we need to escape reality, but we do need to spend more time with ourselves and our minds, doing the things that we love doing, remembering why we do these things that we love doing, so that we can be better in our relationships, so that we can be better as parents and as partners, and so we can be better at work and all these other things we need to do. So yeah, the whole point of this is just more showing and telling you, like, hey, look, these are all the things I do, and this is how they make me feel. What shit do you do that makes you feel like that? So coming up, so I've planned out the first 10 episodes, which I'm going to call season 1. So while I'm still getting my head around this process, I'll just keep it without the video for now. And then moving forwards, it'll obviously be a bit more video, and I want to start doing some interviews, whether that's online or if I can find some people in person. And, you know, we're going to be traveling a bit, so as we start moving to other places, I'd love to be able to put a message out and see if there's people that want to just sit down and have a discussion and just share their thoughts on particular things. Not share their shorts. I don't need anybody's shorts. I've got heaps of shorts. Don't worry about that. So yeah, the little bit of like the roadmap for the next couple of episodes is, so the next episode 2, I want to talk more about strength and mobility and how you can take that with you anywhere. Then episode 3, we're going to talk about breath work. And so this is one that I'm excited about, because it's something I'm still learning about. That's the point. So I'm excited to be able to talk to you about these early sort of phases of it. And then episode 4 is going to be looking at mindfulness in daily life. So again, something that I've been practicing, sometimes more disciplined and more hard out than other times, but still, you know, like, it's something I've been doing for a while, but I still consider myself an absolute sort of beginner and rookie. And so we can talk about a few of these things, what I've been finding, things that I've tried that I've thrown away and just thought were fucking dog shit. But so yeah, this first season, this first 10 episodes, the focus, the theme of it is very much strong, balanced and connected. And so yeah, I'm hoping that each episode we can touch on body, mind and spirit, because those 3 things are what we're ultimately trying to find balance in. Oh, here we go. Actually, I'd already written out something that you can take away with you this episode. So now you've got 2. So if you're already doing the like meditation and the 4 count breathing, then cool. You don't feel like you're being fucking ripped off here, because I've now got another one. So a little bit of a challenge for this week is go for a walk without your phone. Walk to the end of the block. Go for a reasonable walk. Walk around for like 15, 20 minutes without your phone. Notice your breath, notice your steps, look around at the world around you, have a look at the houses, the trees, look at the colours of the cars driving past. Just be more aware of what's going on. And I mean, I know not everybody's walking around staring at their phone like a fucking mindless zombie, but even if I'm walking along with music playing, I'm more connected to the music I'm listening to and the memories and the nostalgia and all of that than I am on what's actually going on around me. But when you go for a walk with nothing, just nature, all of a sudden you're like, fuck, I can hear all these different animals I never thought I'd hear. Shit, my neighbour's house is green. I never realised that. Oh fuck, that cunt needs to mow his lawns. You become more aware. It's cool. I'm not saying do this all the time. I'm just saying just do it this one time. Just experience. I'm gonna say nature, even though we all live in fucking, even if you're living in, you know, residential area, a city, whatever, like it's still outside. Look at the clouds. Listen to a bird. Listen to a car honk its horn. Thank you for joining this first campfire session. I hope it's been more than just sitting down listening to some idiot from New Zealand ramble for however many minutes it's been now. Yeah, please share it with somebody else, somebody who you think would like to pull up a log next to this fire. Stay strong, stay balanced, stay connected.